Hey everybody, it's Ellen Lewis from Crazy for You, and this is Wednesday Live. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm super excited this evening because we have Tanis Gray with us tonight. She's a super talented designer. She's written dozens of books. Her work has been featured in Vogue Knitting, in Interweave, Ply Magazine, Knit Scene, Juniper Moon, Noro, and lots of other places as well. She's a prolific designer, a warm and generous teacher, and an all-around wonderful person. So please help me welcome Tanis Gray. Let me get Tanis up. And hey.
Hi.
Hi, Tanis.
How are you?
It's so great to see you.
Good. You too. I miss you. You're so two-dimensional. I want to give you a hug.
I know. Wouldn't that be great? Of course, if you were in the shop, you couldn't give me a hug anyway.
Yes, true. Yep. Social distancing is key.
Yes, it absolutely is. So, yeah, so that's kind of hard. I know that it's been probably tough on you. I know you have little ones at home. So, are you having them knitting? Are they knitting yet?
My oldest knits. He's 9. Kind of begrudgingly. He's kind of starting whatever comes between being a tween and being what a child, I guess. There needs to be another word in there for like pre-tween almost. So it's not cool because mom does it. So we've been enjoying other crafts. He is big into his sewing machine. So I have been teaching him how to quilt. He made his first quilt for his stuffed penguin that goes everywhere, which is this monstrous stuffed animal. So, and he made a quilt for his sister's stuffed strawberry that is her lovey or whatever you want to call it. And he's made a lot of pillows for, friends and family with my leftover quilting scraps and things like that. So he has been working the sewing machine. It's been great to see.
That's awesome. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, good deal. Let me stop and take a minute and say hi to everybody who has joined us. All right. Hi, Gwen. Bonjour, Rosie. Elle vient du Québec.
Bonsoir. It's the evening.
Oui. Hey, Gwen, Evelyn, nice to see you. Emily, Jal, how are you? Hi, Norma. All right. So, yeah, some of you who are on tonight have had the pleasure of meeting Tanis in person. So that's wonderful. So, hi, Gail. So your kids might not be knitting, but I think little kids can knit. When did you learn to knit?
I learned when I was about 8. I have this lifelong sleep disorder, and everyone always asks me, how do you get everything done? You've got 2 little kids. You are not right now, but usually traveling and teaching and writing books, and I just don't need or can get a lot of sleep. So my mom taught me how to knit. She was making me this sweater, and I wanted to knit as well. So I would get up super early and wake up my brother and the rest of the house. So she taught me how to knit, and my dad taught me how to turn on the TV. And so I could, get up and go and knit and watch TV and basically leave them alone. So I was very productive from a young age. Everybody got mittens for maybe the first few years of my knitting. I made mittens for everybody. And that was just kind of my thing.
When you were 8, you made mittens for everybody?
Yeah, I did Fair Isle pretty quickly. I surpassed my mom really, really fast. She could basically knit and purl. And I grew up near Boston, and we would go up to New Hampshire, northern New Hampshire all the time. My parents have a house up there, and I used to ski race. So we'd go up there to race and all that. And there was a local yarn shop up there. And it was just fantastic. So if I needed help, I would have to wait until we were going to New Hampshire. And so a lot of it I just figured out because we wouldn't be going maybe for a few weeks, and there was no YouTube and there was no Ravelry, and I didn't have a local yarn shop. So I just by tinkering around, and she pretty quickly just gave me DPNs in multiple colors and said, "You are making Fair Isle mittens today." I said, "Okay." And I just kind of I think that's such a great way to teach someone, because you don't give them a chance to be scared or question, or, um, a lot of students, I think why taking a project-based class is so great, because it's kind of a lot of the decisions are made for you. You're making this project, and you can go to a great shop like yours and say, okay, help me pick yarns. And especially if you have trouble with color, Ellen, help me pick my colors. And then you just really need to show up and do the work. So she was a fantastic lady.
This is
And
the one.
one of my books is dedicated to
Oh,
her. Yeah, her name was Barb. She wore bright red lipstick, which I kind of always wear as an ode to Barb. And she had this crusty old dog, and I just loved her shop. And now it's an ice cream parlor, and I kind of die a little inside every time I drive by it. It's had such good memories, sitting there with my mom learning how to knit. So it was a great place.
Sweet. I learned to knit in college, and there was a really nice yarn store, and I don't think it's there anymore. There are yarn
Nice.
stores in Charlottesville, but that lady, I mean, I do think you really do have a warm feeling for that person who first kind of, I don't know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they nurtured you, they mentored you, and believed in you, and I
Right.
think that's huge.
It makes such a difference, doesn't it? When you have someone who, some teachers I find are very almost exclusive in what they want to, exclusive isn't the right word. It's an interesting way of teaching, almost like they're letting you in on a secret. But I want to teach everybody how to knit. And I think it's so important to keep passing it on, and being one more link in that long chain. It's knitting is as old as sheep. I always say that. That's what Elizabeth Zimmerman said. And
Right.
it's our job to help pass it on. So I love teaching, and I really miss it. I really miss being at your shop and
Oh.
helping just broaden people's knitting horizons. So
I always say that I'm on a personal mission to build an army of competent, confident knitters. I mean, I want to,
yeah,
like, as a parent, your job is to make your kids not need you anymore. You want to raise them
right,
and send them off to college and hope they get a job. We just had little baby birds leave the
right.
nest. And I
Yeah,
want
make them the best they can be.
I want that for our knitters. I want in the shop, I want everybody to feel really confident, you can do this, right? Here you need a little help. So I guess you didn't decide when you were 8 years old that you wanted to grow up and be a knitting designer, but you must have had some inkling about art, fashion, design. You went to RISD, prestigious
I
Rhode
did.
Island
Yeah.
School of Design. Did you study textiles there or what?
I did not study textiles. My dad told me I would never get a job if I studied textiles, which I tease him about all the time. My dad is an accountant, and my mom is a fine artist, and I really am pretty much a 50-50 split of both of them. And I walked this line for a long time where I thought I would be a CPA like my dad, and I just thought I can't deny the creative side of myself. So I did. I went to Rhode Island School of Design, and I triple majored in film animation and video, and I concentrated in animation and did a whole animated film for my thesis, and did it for a little while when I graduated, and was recruited by Martha Stewart. So I was a freelancer. So I had my hands in all the pots. I was freelancing with Martha. I was animating for HBO Family, which I don't think exists anymore. It was their children's kind of animated, kind of like a Sesame Street kind of thing, and working at Pier 1 at night. I worked at Pier 1 all through college and high school, and while I lived in New York to pay my rent. And, I learned a lot. I probably learned more working at Pier 1, just how not to treat people and how to be kind to everybody. And it's an interesting life lesson, if you're in the service industry. So
Yeah.
yeah, I have a weird twisted path, but
No, I mean,
yeah.
so Martha Stewart reached out to you from college. They had, I guess, a
He
career counselor or whatever. Or, I mean, did
They
the
like
woman
RISD kids.
herself come? Oh, okay. So, all right.
Yeah, I reached out to them because the head of I would make the crafts for the now defunct kids magazine. So, I emailed her, and the head of the crafts department had gone to RISD, and many of their crafters went to RISD. So
Okay.
yeah, worked there for a little while, and not very long because she had an unfortunate jail incident. And
Is that why you left?
Well, when you freelance, you're always looking for the next gig, right? So they weren't sure that her brand would survive, and it actually helped her in the long run. But I then worked in film. After that, I left all of my 3 jobs and just worked at a production company for a while.
So
So
that I know that after Martha Stewart, you went to HBO, right? Is that right?
no, at the same time,
Oh, at
I
this.
was doing Pier 1, HBO, and Martha. Yeah.
How was it at Martha Stewart? I mean, was that everything you've heard and so much more?
I she gets a bad rep, but I don't think there would be, a pioneer woman or a Rachel Ray or any of these big female names in kind of this maker industry without her. And she did something no one else had done before. And you have to admire what
Oh, yeah.
her business sense. And it was fun getting paid to craft all day. But it's a tough industry. It's kind of cutthroat. Publishing is odd because you're generally 6 months. You're at a completely different schedule. You might be working on Christmas in July, or making the holiday issue, when you're celebrating Memorial Day or something. So it is odd. The publishing life is weird because you never really know. Like, didn't I just celebrate Christmas? Like, no, you were working on the Christmas issue. So publishing is a weird, weird industry for sure.
No, I mean, I hear what you're saying about Martha Stewart, and I know she gets a bad rap. And there are other, I'm sure knitting designers that have worked at Martha Stewart, and I
Yeah,
always liked her. I mean, I subscribed to the magazine. I have a lot of respect for her. I think she's
yeah.
wonderful, and she
It's a little over the top sometimes.
it is, but I mean, we all have.
I look at her gardening schedule and I'm like, what's time for that?
She has
God.
staff. She has staff.
True.
That's what we don't
True.
have. We don't
I
have
wish I had.
staff. I need staff for my house.
That would be nice.
Wouldn't it just? Okay. So, how did you? So, it was Martha Stewart, HBO, and then you were not directly. What was next?
Well, when I was working at Pier 1, one of my friends was interviewing at a production company and said, "Oh, I always, I film, animation, video. Those were my majors. Like, I'm really interested. Could I kind of piggyback on your interview?" And I got the internship and she didn't, which I still feel badly about. But I worked at this production company in the art department. So I think I did maybe 500 commercials, a couple films with Bill Murray, and always in the art department. So anytime they needed graphics or crafts made, or I was loaned out to the prop department or the graphics department, um, anytime they needed something crafty done, that's where I would be. So that was a lot of fun. But the hours are tough. You're on set at 5. You're
Five.
often not home till, yeah,
Oh,
because pre-production.
oh,
You
right.
got to get set up, and sometimes not home till midnight. And it is a male-dominated industry for sure. And it's tough to have any sort of life outside of that. So it
Yeah.
got old pretty quickly, but I did do it for a number of years and realized it wasn't where I wanted to be,
And
in
then
the long run.
did you purposely look? Did you go to Vogue Knitting after that, or I mean,
Well, I
because you
had wrapped a
probably
film.
already. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I had wrapped on a film, and when a film is done, again with the freelancing, you're always looking to the next job, right? And I decided to take some time. My husband and I were engaged. I wasn't sure I wanted to spend another 6 months of my life on a film set, and it's tough for women. It really is. The Me Too movement is no joke. You are harassed, and you might be grabbed, and I was just tired of it. So I happened to see the Vogue Knitting advertisement and went in for an interview, and I was hired on the spot. So it
Who
was
was the
just kind of
editor?
luck. Trisha Malcolm.
Trisha Malcolm. Yeah, isn't she lovely?
She's great. And if she's super into astrology, which you would never guess. And she asked me my birthday and what time I was born and where. And I thought, this is a really weird interview. And she was like doing my star chart. And it was really, she said, we can work together really well. I was like, okay. And we did. I still keep in touch with her. She's a wonderful woman and I really like her.
Yeah, she's lovely. I work with her because, with I don't work with her, okay, but she's now the creative director for Rowan, and so I see her when I'm
Yeah.
doing Rowan things. Yeah, I would not say that I work with her at all. Stand there.
Yeah,
Hi,
she's
you're
great.
welcome.
But she's why I got into designing. I never would have, I think, had the guts to try it. And it's because of her that I started designing publicly, I guess you could say.
How did that happen?
We had, I was the yarn editor at Vogue Knitting, and there were maybe 7 or 8 different magazines when I worked there, and we would do maybe 30 books a year. So it on a very small staff. People think it's this huge building with hundreds of people, and occasionally we would get tour groups. Like the knitting cruises, or somebody would say, "Can we come to the Vogue Knitting offices?" And I would think, it's not what you think, but sure. And it was fun because people would get to try on the samples and see, the layout up on the board, and it was fun. And a design fell through, which would happen occasionally. I mean, somebody might get sick, or have some family issues, or occasionally someone would just flake, and we had a hole in a story that we needed a colorwork sweater for this like Sugar Plum Fairy story. And she said to me, like, you're designing a sweater for this, and I need it in a week, and go. And I did it. And I never would have thought that I could do something like that if she hadn't said, you can do this, and you are, and go. So.
And you didn't want to let her down.
Of course not.
Yeah.
And I've knit so long and crocheted for so long. I knew I could do it. I just didn't think that I not allowed, but maybe didn't have the talent or the right to be put on the Vogue Knitting pages or something. People are always like, "Oh, you're a designer." It's like, well, everyone can do it. There's, anybody can do anything, but I think women especially kind of struggle with, should I, can I, am I allowed to? And yeah, why not? Do it.
Yeah, I think so often women are looking for external validation, to somebody else to say,
Yeah.
"Hey, go ahead, you can do this,"
Right.
And I think that's important. I think that's part of what you get in the community of knitters, is somebody else to say that external validation that says, "Hey, that thing you made is really beautiful. It's really nice," or you've done a nice job. And I think that's really, really important. So yay, good deal. So I was looking through Ravelry kind of just to sort of see where, your first designs were, and, versus where you are now, and how you kind of evolved as a designer. And I was just shocked to find that so many designs that I was familiar with, that I'd seen and loved over the years, were like yours. I was like, wow. So
thank you. Yeah, I'm everywhere. I'm like a bad penny. I just keep showing up. So
I think it's brilliant. One of the ones in particular, I remember when Susie Gibbs first launched the Juniper Moon line, and I was one of the first shops to carry Juniper Moon. And she came to the shop when we were in the old space. She came to the shop, and we had a trunk show. We had all your garments. Do you remember that black lace sweater with the Finley? I loved that.
Yeah, that was when my son was born, and he was 2 months early. So I feel like that part of my life didn't even happen because I was just in the hospital for months. So yeah, it's funny when you associate certain designs with certain periods of time in your life.
Sure.
And they'll forever be, that's when this happened, or I was living there, or they're almost like a journal. It's interesting to look back.
They absolutely
at my portfolio.
Yeah. I mean, don't you do that kind of, maybe you don't because you have the designs that do that, but I think knitters do that. They have their projects, and they're like, I mean, I have one of my sweaters is like, this is the sweater I knit while my mother was in the hospital. This is the sweater that I knit when whatever. And it does sort
Absolutely.
Yeah, I did a blog post about it. I called it "Knitting the Times of Our Lives" or something like that.
For sure. Yeah.
So I'm curious, how it all works. Like, you were a freelancer. Do the yarn companies, or does somebody come to you and say, hey, we have a project, or hey, we have this yarn, can you do something with it? Or, do they give you any guidance? Do you provide swatches and sketches, or how does that work?
All of the above. Everybody works differently. So now with kind of almost the decline of knitting magazines, everything is different. So a lot of my designs I'll do independently, and I might partner with a yarn company, or they might email me and say, hey, do you want to do a project with us? Or I might, just go to a shop like yours and buy yarn that I love and then end up putting it in a design. Sometimes they come to me, sometimes I go to them. Sometimes it's a pretty open, we just want you to design something, usually color work, for this issue or this book, or would you do something, for this collection or whatever, or just an open invitation. We're looking for something very specific, like just mittens or, sweater designs in this yarn or this weight, or, featuring this palette, or I've worked every which way at this point, and I don't prefer one way over the other. I do like it when I'm given more freedom, but I also like really hard restrictions sometimes. Like, you cannot go over 150 yards of each color or something, because it really makes you think differently than if you had 5 skeins as opposed to one in 2 different colors. And I'm just working on a project like that right now. I'm kind of playing yarn chicken, because I know it's for one of those subscription boxes. Like, okay, I cannot exceed this amount. And it has to be unisex, and it has to be one size, fits most. And those are fun sometimes, because, it's just a kind of a choose your own adventure challenge, and it doesn't always work. And keeps you on your toes for sure. So
It's kind of the knitting equivalent of a chopped basket.
Yeah. And I like working with different materials too. I worked on this project a long, long time ago, before my kids were born, with Ellie Stubenroch and I forget who the other designer, Jared Flood and I, and there were a couple other knitters, and it was called an Exquisite Corpse project, which was a Victorian parlor game where you would start drawing maybe like the head of something, and then you would cover it up, and then you would pass it to your neighbor, and they would only see the very bottom of your drawing, and then they might do the torso and then cover it up, and the next person would maybe do the arms. So at the end, you would get this really bizarre drawing, and we decided to do that with a sweater. So, I started on the bottom, and I knit like the hemline and maybe up to like the torso, and I knit in nuts and bolts, and I went to the hardware store and got all this cool stuff, and knit it in with cables, and then it got passed on to the next person, and we had no idea what it would look like, and it was really fun. And I like projects like that too, that are really just kind of like a funky exercise in how knitting is cool, rather than, we need to design this and size it and make sure it looks good on everybody. It was just like an art piece. So those are fun too, because there's no rules. Right. And then of course everyone wanted the pattern, and we were like, we have no idea what we did.
So that's a great lead into, I look at your designs, especially your stranded designs. You manage to capture the essence of something. There's this wonderful ability you have of making a project thematic. Obviously the Harry Potter book, but the Disney theme, the Charlotte's Web. I'm going to share this real quick. I love this.
Oh yeah, the magically delicious hat.
Delicious. Can you see that they're all the Lucky Charm shapes? I think that's fabulous.
It's my husband's favorite cereal. There's usually a reason. And we go to Costco and buy the double box, and he has no shame with not sharing it with the kids. Those are his Lucky Charms. So usually there's a reason. Charlotte's Web, my son's class was reading it, and we were reading it out loud. Because it's a tough book for little kids.
Yeah.
There's a lot of big themes, especially death. And, I wanted to read it with him to make sure he understood it. And I thought, this book means so much. So I did a project. So yeah, a lot of times they're inspired by something that is happening in my life. But I love that hat too. It's just, I love a good rainbow. I am a sucker for a rainbow.
Yeah. It's just really, really happy. I think there's a sense of magical, fun-loving, almost childhood nostalgia associated with your work. I mean, tell me about that.
It's interesting being a mom because you're seeing childhood from a totally different point of view. And seeing my kids, and sneaking them Lucky Charms when my husband is working so they can get their marshmallow magically delicious fix, or snuggled in bed reading Charlotte's Web or something, when I remember very clearly reading it under the covers with a flashlight, and kind of revisiting these things with a different point of view. Or watching The Little Mermaid with my daughter or something. They inspire. So my problem is time. I never have enough of it. And especially right now with, being on lockdown, and my husband is working 14-hour days. So I am the caregiver. And I don't have much time to knit, and I'm feeling that void in my life, but I'm, being surrounded by all these things and getting all these ideas and making notes. So someday when I do have some more time, I can, I have a whole folder of charts on my desktop of, charts that I've drawn that someday I'll get to turn into knitting. So yeah, this lockdown is brutal.
It's been tough. So where do you guys, you know what, I know we're going to run out of time, and really quick, I want to make sure that everybody sees this. So Tanis just won this amazing national award, and I have a picture of it that I took when she was here in October, and I've been keeping it top secret because it couldn't be shown. So I want to share this with you guys, and I want you to, if you can, kind of talk us through what this is and why it's so important.
I'm not sure it's easily accessible. Oh, I have the real thing. Hold on one second.
Okay, yeah. Can you guys see this though? I think this is wonderful. Do you see it says votes?
Yeah, here's the real thing. Yeah, so I won this contest for the American Heritage Women in the Arts Award, and this is the 4th or 5th time I've won it. So it's sponsored by the Daughters of the American Revolution, and you go to a state level, and then if you win that, then you go to a regional level, and then if you win that, you go to nationals. So I've won national 4 or 5 times. So this one I just won, and this was in celebration of the 19th Amendment, which is a women's right to vote. So we've got, a lot of the protesters. I love iconography. I mean, iconography is meaning in symbols, right? And I took a lot of art history at RISD, and it's like this whole secret coded language hidden in paintings and sculptures that, you would never know. But they wore a lot of flowers in their hair when they were protesting. This is the Roman numeral for 19. They would often form, lines to march on. These were little explosions because they were kind of working with this explosive idea of women having their own thoughts. And, they did it with love. I know, shocking that women have brains. And of course, Votes for Women. And there were 5 women that were really instrumental in the women's right to vote. And then it just mirror images. And, it's not without controversy, like anything. It was definitely more of something that was happening in the white community. And I think that's important to recognize that as well. But now without it, no women, regardless of race, wouldn't be able to vote. So I think it's kind of cool that these women who came before us were fighting battle. And the US colors were white, purple, and gold, but gold and white are too similar in color work. And so I changed it to the European colors, which isn't to Daughters of the American Revolution, but it just showed up better.
It's beautiful.
And I worked with Hazel Knits because I love her, and women-run company, US, and we did the colors together. So that was a fun project.
I want to share real quick Cynthia's comment about your magically delicious hat.
Hey, Chins, she's my buddy.
Oh, okay. And also somebody else. Let's see. Same person. Yep. So very, very cool. What else did I want to ask you? So I guess you sort of addressed a little bit about finding the yarn first or finding so like with the American Heritage competition piece, you decided on the colors first and then went about finding the right ones, right? Versus finding a yarn and saying, ooh, I need to make something with this.
I usually work the other way. I usually draw my charts in black and white. If something like that has more than 2 colors, I might do gray as well. But I almost always design in black and white first and then save it and then make a new file and try with different colors. Because I never wanted, in this one specifically, I never wanted the blue or the purple and the green to touch because I didn't want it to get muddy, within a pattern band. So sometimes things need to be redesigned. Things are totally different when you go from black and white to color.
Sure.
And sometimes it definitely changes the design a bit. So sometimes it will be colors first. Yeah, like these are about to become something beautiful, and these I pulled from my stash. And I kind of went off these 2 and came up with the design after that. It just depends. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, whatever inspires you. Very cool.
Yeah.
So you obviously have the luxury of doing whatever you want at this point, So what are you going to do next? What do you want to do? Is there anything, I know you have some top secret stuff, but is there anything you can share with us?
There's a new book coming out in January, which is in the final edits right now. I just saw the final layout yesterday, and that's just so exciting, because I was saying to you earlier, and it was just you and I talking, this is my office. It's this little tiny room in my house, and it is the only space that is mine. And to work on these big projects and these books that will hopefully end up on, knitters' personal shelves and library shelves and local yarn shop shelves, all from this little tiny space, and then see it turned into a book. It is, there's nothing like it. And if I'm impressed, it takes a lot to impress me. So if I'm impressed by this collection that we've pulled together and worked so hard on, it's like sitting on this big present that you can't wait to share with everybody.
Can you tell us? You can't tell us. You can't tell us. No.
All I can say is it takes place in a galaxy far, far away. That's all I can say.
Oh, I love that. Oh, is Baby Yoda in it?
I can neither confirm nor deny what you're talking about.
Oh my God. Oh, Tanis, you are so wonderful. I miss you so much.
I miss you too.
It is just a pleasure to be with you. You're so real. I love that. You're so real. You're so warm and generous and just such an amazing soul. Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, yeah. Ooh, somebody wants to pre-order it. Nishaya.
Just wait. Just wait.
Yes.
Oh, and this one comes out tomorrow. This one will be out tomorrow.
Oh, very pretty.
We love strawberries. We'll go and pick strawberries, and my son will eat them all before we even get home. So that's kind of an ode to him. So
very nice. Okay, Saturn Miss has a question for you. What is your favorite pattern from the Harry Potter book?
Oh, I get asked this a lot. If it's my patterns, because I think I have 8 or so, I really like the ones with the beads, like the lunar kind of phases. Those are my favorite personal project. But in general, I really like the Time Turner pullover. I love a good Fair Isle yoke. And, I love the story, and I love Hermione and how she speaks her mind, and she's a smart, sassy character who doesn't need, a boy or a prince or, so it's kind of an ode to her too.
I love that. So we have a question from Karen. You have to research.
Yeah, there's a lot of books out there. And like I said, I'm a bad penny, so you don't have to look too far. I just keep showing up.
If you do on Ravelry, Karen, if you just look up Tanis Gray, you will see just, I think as of last count, there were 12 pages of Tanis Gray designs.
Yeah, I'm almost at 600 patterns. Yeah, I've been doing this a long time.
Oh, that's wonderful. So tell us where we can find more of you. You know, I mean, what social media platforms are you most active on? Where do you show up?
Say Instagram. I love Instagram. I love that you don't have to read all the text. You know, Facebook, it's a little too preachy for me. So I am on Instagram. Tanisnits.com is my website. And Ravelry, but I know some people are not on Ravelry right now with visual issues. So I'm working on updating my website a little bit more. And Twitter, and I'm always around.
Are you a tweeter? Do you tweet? You
Well,
Twitter?
let me rephrase. I post to Instagram and you can cross post.
Right.
So I'm mainly, and it'll blast it out on Twitter and Facebook too. But
Okay. Yeah.
I don't actively tweet the snark like most people. I just, I just can't. I've learned a lot about the pandemic and what my limits are, and I think staying off of certain social media is it's just key to keeping your sanity. I think, especially with little kids, I don't want to get in a funk and then turn around and be grouchy for the rest of the day. And,
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important to stay positive, but I have definitely taken you more of your time than I said that I would, but it's always such a pleasure.
No, it's great to talk to you. Yeah. I can't wait to come back to your shop.
I can't wait.
And teach. We had all this stuff planned, and now, we keep pushing it, and someday we'll get back there.
We will. I have the kids together, and we will get there, and you will come, and it will be wonderful. And we have a new restaurant.
Great.
I'll take you to dinner. It'll be fabulous.
Ooh, nice.
But anyway, thank you so much for joining me. It was just a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So take care, and I will see you soon.
Stay sane. Yes, I will see you soon. Keep knitting.
Yep.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Good night.
Thank you guys so much for joining me. I love Tanis, as you can tell. Isn't she just the most warm and wonderful person ever? She is just so incredibly real. I encourage you to go to her sites, follow her on Instagram, and yeah, she's just really something. So thank you so much for joining me. And until next time, keep knitting and create something beautiful. Good night.